Welcome to Stemiverse podcast episode 53. In this episode, Peter and Marcus talk with Mark Roper. Mark is a strategic thinker, entrepreneur and lecturer who enjoys working at the leading edge, envisioning solutions to real-world problems and taking action to make these solutions a reality. Mark is a co-founder of Royalti blockchain group Pty Ltd, an Australian-based blockchain training and consulting company. In that capacity, we invited Mark to have a discussion with us in which we explore the blockchain and the ways by which it promises to change the world. This is Stemiverse podcast episode 53. Stemiverse is a podcast produced by Tech Explorations. Our mission is to help educators become awesome at teaching STEM, be it at home or in the classroom. Whether you are a professional or casual teacher teaching in a classroom or a parent or caretaker teaching at home, this podcast brings you the knowledge and experiences of practitioners, academics, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners who are passionate about education and strive every day to help our children prepare for life in a world of radical change and, why not, abundance.
Marcus, long time no see.
What's happening? Like this September and August has been really hectic.
Yeah.
How's your secret business going?
It's going secretly well.
Me too. I've got a secret thing that I'm working on, but I can't say anything.
I can't talk about it either, yeah. So it's great. We were really entertaining.
Yeah, and that kept us very busy. So it's been a long time since we've done one together. So this one is actually a special one, a special episode. Well, all of our episodes are special, but this one is not really about education, right? We are talking to Mark Roper. We'll do an introduction of Mark very, very quickly, but just so that our audience knows what we are talking about. It's not really education. It's about something that can potentially change the world.
That's always good.
What could it be?
Oh, I don't know. Is it solar panels? Hey, you've got solar panels on your house?
Yes, and they're not energized yet. Like you put them up on the roof and then you have to wait for weeks and weeks until they come and change the switchboard.
Really? I did not know this.
I'm waiting.
Okay, there you go. That's what's new.
I'm waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting for free energy. So another thing that potentially can change the world, cryptocurrencies.
So you bought the solar panels so you can mine with cryptocurrencies.
Yes, I've actually started. I've got my Raspberry Pi here hooked in. I'm using not yet free energy, but soon to be free energy, and I'm mining. Turtle coin. Okay, that's a real name of it.
Is that a slow coin to mine?
It is actually pretty fast. Yeah, but Mark, the funny thing about cryptocurrencies is they don't sound like dollar, euro, yen. Those things sound really serious, but turtle coin, it sounds like a toy. Hey, Marcus. Mark.
This is going to really confuse you.
Yeah. It's confusing.
So, Mark, who are you?
Yes.
Let's start with that.
Introduce yourself.
I'm a serial entrepreneur, someone that likes to see the latest in technologies and how that can actually solve a lot of the world's problems that we have, that we've all inherited, perhaps is a better way of saying. So I'm working at I co-founded a blockchain group called Royalti Blockchain, and I'm part of a few different really interesting projects which are setting a precedence, I guess, of new ways of designing, developing organizations, businesses, projects. And I'm a little bit crazy, but you kind of have to be in this world to think outside the box.
Yeah. So I think to be an entrepreneur, and especially in new tech, like you're not building traditional businesses, you build something that I think it's going to be pretty hard to explain to me, because you're doing some interesting things in relation to cryptocurrencies, and that takes a bit of explanation. Right, so all that is very new. The business side, the business models that you're inventing in a way, how you're making a profit, how you're solving existing or perhaps future problems.
Yeah. So what are you making? What do you do?
Maybe,
if we want to get the bus
that clear.
We have been developing a mining organization.
So what's a mining organization?
a cryptocurrency mining business, ICO, that we're about to launch.
Oh, what's an ICO?
An ICO is an internet initial coin offering. An initial coin offering. So it's creating a currency or a token, which is a bundled up smart contract, which represents business activities.
Well, okay, let's take a step back now, because like in the real world, right? In the real world, you don't create currency out of thin air, right? Like in Europe, that happened in 1999 with the euro. That a new currency essentially was invented, but it took them decades to achieve that, right? And you're saying that you can actually now start a company, do this thing called ICO, initial coin offering, essentially introduce a new market, a new currency into the world, right? Is that essentially what it's about?
Using the terminology of currency may not be the most accurate thing. It's a digital asset. It's an asset class which stores value and can be transferred.
Right.
So originally it was, it's cryptocurrency, but it's a digital asset which stores value that you can transfer.
And the value is determined how?
That depends on the modeling. So a lot of the time, currencies, it's determined by the market, which is based on supply, demand, market confidence. Market confidence is usually based on really good technology and a really trusted and good management team, where people actually know that the project's going somewhere and they're holding on their currency, so they're restricting supply because they're holding it onto it rather than selling it. And that affects the price by driving it upwards.
Oh, like gold, right? You buy gold and you hold it. You don't buy your groceries with
same principle as exactly. It's the same principle as all types of stocks and commodity market.
Yeah,
supply, demand, market confidence. So previously, ICOs have been based on new technology. A lot of people have been putting forward ideas to fund their ideas and the development of their ideas, and sometimes this has happened purely based on an idea. Now, last year and the year previous to that, people have raised nominal amounts based on an idea. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
What's a nominal amount?
Yeah, give us some.
Phenomenal amount. Phenomenal. $30 million.
Okay.
Or based on an idea, millions of dollars is crazy. Usually, when you were trying to get funding for a startup, there's quite a lengthy process. Unless it's someone that knows you and trusts you, like you don't just receive capital in that way. It takes a long time of testing something. But a lot of people have been able to kind of shoot into the market and kind of get these business projects floated really quickly. Now, there are good examples of this, and very, very dodgy examples of this.
The promise there, why they were so successful, is like speculation on the side of the consumer, thinking that this new digital currency will increase in value over time, just like the Bitcoin did, and they'll be millionaires without actually investing in real valuable assets.
It's about usability. So the more usable something is, the more value it gives to a practical sense, the more it's going to be valued because it's going to be used. If something doesn't have any value, if it doesn't give you anything, then people trade based on hype, which is an area I stay well clear of. The projects I'm working on are based on substance, and the value is quantifiable. So traditionally, this has been a speculative industry, but now it's moving towards an area where you can quantify the value, and therefore it's not based on air.
So tell us about the value, like how are things changing now, where the value is actually better defined and it's not vaporware in a way in the technology itself?
Well, say with mining. Now, we're not the first people to do a mining ICO. We're not inventing the wheel with that. What our innovations are a little bit different. But people would invest money to buy tokens, and that money spent on equipment. And that equipment has a yield. It has an output. It's real. It functions, it operates, it has a purpose, and it fulfills that purpose.
So it's computers or computational hardware?
Yeah.
That they invest in?
So different mining hardware, which is all sorts of, depending on what area they're focusing on, will be different GPU systems or ASIC machines.
Yeah.
And so with the whole Bitcoin mining, the aim is to have the lower cost energy, because these machines do tend to chew up a fair bit of energy. And the aim is to reduce your expenses as much as possible in order to have the highest ROI that you can.
I wanted to dig into some of the fundamentals of this whole, I suppose, movement away from fiat currencies and into digital currencies that, they don't have a particular or specific government authority that vouches for them, that supports the value. Why do we need digital currencies or cryptocurrencies in particular? Can't we just do what we want to do with dollars and euros?
There are some fundamental issues with how our economy is designed.
I think it's perfect, actually. Our economy is fine. Or Mark, tell us, what's the problem with our economy?
Well, one, as an entrepreneur, access to capital is restrictive and difficult. But from the other perspective, the big difference between fiat currency and cryptocurrency is there is no total supply when it comes to US dollars. And the US reserves can continually print money out of nothing.
Yeah. And what's the problem with that? Because it works out quite well for the US, I guess.
With that quantitative easing.
It kind of it keeps them alive instead of being swallowed by $19 trillion worth of debt. And that's the issue with our economy, is that it is purely based on debt rather than value. And the US economy is, I don't know the exact figure, but it's something phenomenal, like $19 or $20 trillion owed to China, which is ludicrous. It's insane. And so they're having to keep pumping out and printing dollars in order to stop themselves from being swallowed by their own bad decisions.
Mark,
I don't know if that's why they print the money.
Well, what do you think? Why do you think money is printed?
Not to be paying the debt. They would just totally nuke their inflation rate if they were to do it at the debt levels.
They do it at a controlled level. Right now they owe $21.48 trillion, right? And we know that they print money. The European Union did that as well with the euro during the last crash. So it is those fiat currencies don't really have a limit of ceiling on how much circulates, and that can cause debt issues. That's what you're saying, Mark, right?
Yeah. So it continues the cycle, really. More debt's being created and more money is going into circulation. However, I guess the debt kind of balances out the inflation a bit.
So that's one issue that the cryptocurrencies are designed to deal with. They've got a fixed number of coins that can circulate. That's how the Bitcoin is designed. And I was looking at other coins like Litecoin, and all those do have built in a ceiling. Are there any other problems with the way that the free market economy and the way that the financial system works and has been working essentially for 100 years now that indicates that we need to switch to a new system?
One of the big reasons why people are going towards blockchain is because it does globalize activities. It's easier to move across borders.
Lower costs, faster transfers.
Lower costs. Yeah, exactly.
Well, disintermediation.
It's one of the reasons why the banks love blockchain technologies, because they're reducing their costs for when it comes to international transactions, but they're still charging those fees. So they're making great profit from that. However, the flip side of it is that these currencies, the more they become, the less people need to use their services. And now there's cryptocurrency wallets which are attached to Visa cards, where you can use your cryptocurrency literally everywhere, which is an asset, digital asset, so that when you're actually buying things, you're using something that has an asset value, and you're exchanging it in real time to get goods and services.
Yeah.
When you accumulate an asset, though, you're taxed on capital gains. So it's a different model compared to your tradition, like earning a fiat income, where you're accumulating assets the same as real estate, and then that becomes taxable based on capital gains of that asset.
Right, so taxation comes in there as well.
It changes the technicalities of things a bit. But the real reason why I think this is changing the world is because it creates access to resources. When new and innovative projects come up, it creates an ability where people can get access to more funds, assets, resources to fuel good ideas, which is pretty awesome. And in this model where it's all based on value, and you keep accumulating these assets, it becomes a lot easier to allocate resources to urgent requirements. So in the future, there could be mining setups purely to have emergency response resources readily available around the world. There could be all sorts of models where the resources are actually there to be able to allocate them as they are needed, rather than someone going, I don't want to pay this, or a government saying, I don't want to pay this because this is, going to cost us money and increase our debt and whatnot. It can keep turning over and just make sure that the needs are covered.
But I guess whether you use cryptocurrency or dollars and euros, the business modeling and the profitability of a new project, the business model, all those still remain, right? You still need to make money whether you fund a project using dollars or cryptocurrencies, and it has to be clear to the market.
Well, it depends what it's for. Like for business projects, you need to have a return. When it comes to emergency response, that's a whole different story. There could be floods in an area. There could be all sorts of natural disasters, and being able to allocate resources based on the mass accumulation of them for the purpose of having them readily available for quick response times takes, I guess, the cost away from doing good things.
Right.
Which is usually associated with that.
So you're talking about a specific use case now for something like a cryptocurrency where we need quick response and the allocation of resources, in this case, money, in whatever form we can get it, so that we can pay for rescuers, machinery, like food rations and all that. So are those mechanisms in particular for using cryptocurrencies to achieve something like that in place? And also, I'm not sure if you have experience on this matter. I wonder, when something like that happens, like a tsunami, I think in Indonesia about 15 years ago, the responses tend to be slow because of political reasons, usually, as far as I understand it, at least, not so much because of financing.
Yeah, it's the political reasons because they don't want to finance.
Right. Who's going to pay what, right? Especially if it's an international effort.
Exactly. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the way that our institutions are designed. Now, I skipped past your question. There isn't anything like this created at the moment. I deal with a lot of different researchers out there who are creating some amazing, I've seen models where these nodes can be placed in communities all around the world, and the mining capacity that these nodes generate based on artificial intelligence and linking these nodes up can actually help communities in third world countries get the resources they need to get out of poverty. And I've seen a model like this being designed, and there are innovations that are being created that can completely change the world. However, it is that there are these researchers or research scientists. A lot of this stuff is theory with a lot of with the technological capability, and it's probably 4 or 5 years away.
Right.
But there's a trajectory towards that. And mining has a capacity to build access to these things. We hear a lot about it being very energy consumptive, taking up a lot of energy, and that's true. But what's happening is that because there is such a huge economy behind it, and because there's such a capacity to build huge amounts of resources, technology is innovating to reduce energy consumption and make things more efficient. And this pressure to change is creating a new revolution in technology, or evolution in technology.
I see. Yeah, of course, because you need specific hardware that can really efficiently mine. So mining means calculating or creating coins, crypto coins. So it's quite different to the technology that we use to run the internet, for example, or send email, right? So it's specialized. So that's where the technology push is.
It is.
Great. Mark, I'd like to ask you, just to ground the discussion a little bit more to today, right? So cryptocurrency and Bitcoin that most people know in particular is not new anymore. It's been around for 10 years at least. I think the Bitcoin came around in 2007, its first version. So quite a lot has been done around that area. We all know from the news that the FBI, was able to infiltrate drug cartels and confiscated proceeds of crime in Bitcoin, and and then they were auctioning them to the market and so on. So we know that is one of the first applications of cryptocurrencies. But I think somewhere earlier you mentioned something about fighting poverty, right? And applications of that sort. And to my mind, what comes into play is this, like these days in places like Australia, like I said, the first world, Australia, Europe, US, there is no friction in commerce. I can get onto Amazon and I can buy stuff. My credit card will ensure that that whatever I buy is delivered really quickly, and I don't really need to worry about transaction, currency conversion, all that. It seems that it is frictionless to me. But I wonder, Marcus is looking at this from the other point, of the retailer. But what I want to say is that not everybody does have a credit card or access to PayPal. So you go to third world countries, like you go into Africa and there's no internet there. Do you think that the Bitcoin can address something like that?
Kenya was the first country in the world to have a mobile application for money transfers.
Oh, tell us about it.
I've got the name. My partner's from Kenya. She's been telling me that for ages. But there's an app where she's sending her family money back, and it's instantaneous and there's no fees.
Is it that runs on a normal feature phone or a smartphone, or?
Yeah.
Probably just via SMS even.
SMS, yeah.
I don't think this one is SMS, but I'm pretty sure you can do it via SMS pretty easily. But when it comes to places like in Africa, there are new technologies coming up, but it's an environment over there that it's hard for us to imagine as people living in Australia. I get told a lot because I have these, and my partner's like, "You don't understand. You don't understand Kenya," and unfortunately, governments are extremely corrupt beyond our comprehension.
Right.
There's a ditch in a hole in a road. Let's write off $200 million in profit.
Public works.
That's a reality in Africa.
But do they let you keep your repairs?
Do they let you? There's no repairs done. That's spending money that they.
It's just paper.
I'm joking.
It's just paper. So how can crypto help in that case? Is it that the fact that it bypasses the government, is not controlled by government, that's just an immediate advantage?
It bypasses control mechanism. It creates resources where resources have been restricted.
What about the publicity, the public nature of the blockchain, where all these crypto transactions are stored? It's all out in the open.
Yeah, that keeps the transparency, and the ledger holds down exactly what has been happening. So there's accountability there. So governments running on the blockchain will have many people to answer to if they try and do a loophole around it, because it will be obvious. They can't hide it. They can't change the blockchain like that.
Is there anywhere in the world where a government in particular decides to use the blockchain to record its operations?
Is there anywhere?
Is there anywhere that you know about?
Georgia is using a product from Bitfury called Exonum for their land registry. Mm-hmm. They have a product that we're actually going to be using ourselves, where it makes it quite easy to create, I guess, private blockchains or permissioned blockchains, and using that technology for digital rights management, property registries, all sorts of, I guess, database management that needs to be protected.
So how would that work for Georgia, and why do you think they're doing it?
It's efficient. It can't be changed.
It's tamper-proof, so...
Yeah. And we have paper records, but we're getting it away from the age of paper. And so as much as there's certificates and physical certificates, it'd be a digital stamp or a digital image, a digital fingerprint, which is an image of that document at a specific point in time, which would be time-stamped. And so if it was ever changed, they would know that it's been changed.
Right. So that's where the transparency comes in, and a mechanism to reduce or eliminate corruption over time.
Yeah. It creates it stores a record. And that record's been time-stamped. It's there in plain sight. And so anything that's changed from it, it's just automatic red flag. And then by separating things onto a blockchain and a system that's run by many computers, especially blockchains, private blockchains that are managed by miners, someone to hack it becomes very hard, because they might get access to a packet of information, but that packet of information is useless unless it's linked up with all the rest of the blocks. And so that's why they call it like a 51% attack, because they need to be able to get 51% of something to be able to change something. Because if you have 49%, then the rest of the blockchain will go, hey, that's not right, and it would just delete it.
Because it's like a majority, or when a transaction is entered into the blockchain, it has to be approved, I guess, by the majority.
Well, they need to have consensus.
Right? Consensus.
Is the word.
Consensus is the word.
So that's how you check the validity of a transaction.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's applications in government. I wonder, now, if we look at, say, 10 years into the future, where do you see applications of the blockchain that can potentially change our lives in the way that TCP/IP did?
Smart contracts.
Oh, okay.
Smart contracts
Take it away.
Are just an efficient way of managing things. You have a structure, and you can define that structure using smart contracts. And when things happen, then it will activate a sequence or whatever's supposed to happen. From a micro perspective, as a freelancer, if you're getting your job done, you're going to get paid. But when it comes to automating systems, when there's a notification comes up that activates a smart contract that goes to a contractor to fix something or whatever it may be, there's an efficient way of managing the requirements of the organization. And so there's a way of creating, I guess, autonomy with how an organization's managed, which takes away a lot of the hierarchy that we have.
Hang on. Are you saying that lawyers are no longer going to be required?
Technically, lawyers aren't required.
But we still pay them a lot of money. Why?
I know, because they use fear to make us pay a lot of money, because we're too scared not to.
Well, I guess, today, we'll go to a lawyer if we want to buy a house, because there are contracts involved and large sums of money. And I can't just exchange contracts with the seller of a house because I don't trust them, I guess, to honor the signature. And I believe that the lawyer, as an intermediary, will provide that validity. So what are you saying is that smart contracts will no longer require lawyers or legal systems?
In that situation, lawyers can be completely replaced.
Oh.
In that situation.
So what are they like?
So how does a smart contract do the tests that a lawyer would do? So I'd imagine, or a third party test that a third party would do, like to make sure somebody's actually honouring the contract.
Right.
A third party can be contracted.
Like an engineer.
If something's being surveyed, then it's like there's a checklist, and you need to have a tick in every checklist. Once there's a tick in every checklist, then it can move forward.
So who puts the tick there? Because then you just ultimately argue that no, you can't put the tick there.
That can be done through a digital system.
Maybe can we work in an example? Let's say, I mean, a house is probably a bit complicated because it's big, but let's say a car.
Actually,
I want to buy a second
house
car.
Is actually great because
people know.
I was thinking about the concept of say defects.
Yeah.
So you go build a house, you have a builder that's on the blockchain, and you don't hand over the last bit of money until all the defects are fixed. How would that work with a smart contract?
So between a buyer of a new house and the builder of the house.
Say a builder versus
Sure.
There'd be a list of tasks that they would have had to have done, and I guess at some stage there's someone to go, yes, this job has been done to satisfactory, and then the funds would be released into their account.
So, like, who's the one that says that, yes, it's been done to satisfactory? And who's the one that's defining satisfactory?
There'd be an independent person that would do that, I guess.
So how's that different to just using PayPal today?
PayPal.
Can you use PayPal for contractors like that?
Okay, maybe not a contractor, but I'm thinking just a simple merchant and, a purchaser arrangement where PayPal is essentially like an arbiter. As yes, okay, the person has sent the goods and there's a signature for the delivery versus the guy that says, I've been home all day and I never received the goods. I don't go off on a tangent, but it's also a simple example that, as soon as you're involving a third party, you're really just going back to traditional systems.
The way that I think about this, with houses in particular, is that in the case of purchasing, say, a used house, like a second-hand house, you need to get some people to assist you with the purchase. And there could be a bank, for example, to say, the value of this house is this much, so we can lend you this much. You go to an engineer to say, the house is structural. You go to the pest controller to say, there's no pests. There's no lawyer yet, but eventually the lawyer will take the information from all these people and put them into a document. And I guess that is what brings all of those together. And that's when you can say, okay, now I can pay the money. Right? So I guess, right, Mark, you can correct me, that's where the smart contract comes in, because the smart contract will rotate through all these people. They will tick the boxes. And then the smart contract itself will do what the lawyer normally would do, to say everybody who is an expert said yes, you can now release the money on PayPal or whatever, use Bitcoin. And that is the public record. It identifies all those professionals who have been remunerated, for attracted fees. So there's self-regulation. That's how I understand it.
So from what I'm understanding, you're getting these specialists to tag facts in a blockchain that can be referred to in the past. So
system, and then that digital system would anchor its data into the blockchain.
Right.
Yeah. So there'd be a platform, there'd an interface that you're interacting with. That interface would have the process, and then that information would be stored on the back end, blockchain back end.
Right. So what about enforcement?
Sorry, before we go down that route, when it comes to data, it's like a hash of the data, or is it like the data, actually, literally the data being inserted into the blockchain or into the ledger? Yeah, I'm just thinking that that you then end up in like data size issues if you are actually just inserting the data directly.
Yeah, it'd be a hash, I guess, but yeah.
Those details will be worked out later. Don't worry about the how.
Don't worry about the implementation.
It's like the tyranny of how.
We're talking about the ideas, and then we'll get the specialists to build.
I guess to take this one step further, like I get my brand new house, and then I discover that one of the pipes is blocked or broken. Real story.
Yeah.
What's my recourse if there's no lawyer there?
If the engineer has checked all the piping, and said, everything, if whoever, well, I guess it's a plumber, if the plumber or whoever's been checking it has ticked it off saying I've checked it, and it turns out that that's not right, then there's a breach there, isn't there?
So then insurance comes in. Well, in real life, that's what happens, really. Yeah. There's a defect in the house or damage. You don't go to a lawyer, you go to the insurance company. And I guess that can also be attended by the blockchain. There's a whole lot of things that happen, like an inspection and then a rectification and then another inspection. And again, that can be on the public blockchain and remains public property.
If the insurer is giving you insurance based on the fact that all these checks have been made, and then it's been found that something hasn't actually been done thoroughly, and there's been a breach, then the insurer is going to be the one that arms up with lawyers to rectify the situation. So
to wrap this particular example up, I guess one big change is going to be that lawyers will have to redefine the kind of work that they do in a way that, say, real estate agents or actually even better, travel agents had to redefine their work after the internet made it possible for people to book their own tickets. And
well, lawyers will have to be smart now.
They will have to be programmers. They will have to program smart contracts.
They'll need some things.
Right. So, yeah, I think that would be a welcome change, in my opinion.
I think the big area for lawyers is digital rights management for when it comes to IP. That's been a big hot topic over the years as the digital world has made its stance in our lives. Originally back in the day with things like Kazaa, but there's all sorts of different breaches, and now all intellectual property can be protected via the blockchain.
Definitely. I see a lot happening in that area that the blockchain can influence. Mark, I wanted to ask you as well about your opinion in the blockchain in education, and just to steer the discussion to where I want. I was thinking like degree and certifications, right?
Yeah.
Degree awarding and certifications. And I imagine those things would fit quite well on the blockchain. Like you want to get a job, you're a doctor, right? You want to get a job, show me your certificate that you actually have graduated as a doctor. But that could be on the blockchain, right?
100%. I'm pretty sure there's innovations in this part that's being done. I think University of Wollongong, I think I might have read something about them doing it. Maybe Western Sydney as well.
So degrees on the blockchain?
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. Like we can all get masters or PhDs overnight.
Takes a bit longer.
And how long does it take to get the certificate sent? I guess.
To earn it or to just send it?
No, just to fake it. Like people.
Oh, right here, $50.
People can fake these things like overnight, and even with resumes, the data that people have on your resumes when you're going through it. There's someone that could be very experienced at marketing but not getting jobs, so they decide to fake it.
Fake it, yeah.
That can be automatically checked instead of having to call up a university to verify it. There could just be a registry.
Yeah, I can really see that happening very soon. Actually, I don't see many obstacles to doing something like that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's going to come out in the next couple of years.
Well, let's daydream a little bit more. What else do you see being affected forever by the blockchain? Like
medical records.
Okay,
talking about My Health records.
Cover it, tell us.
Yeah, well, like My Health has been a big thing. They've been trying to get everyone to opt into it, but there's a lot of concerns about the privacy of your very sensitive information. Privacy is important.
I'll take that one step further. Like, I'm not saying that this is happening in Australia, but you know how many countries getting family benefits is tied to immunization records. Like your kids have to be immunized before you can get a benefit from the government. And that, of course, is an incentive for people that don't want to be immunized to fake immunizations. But that won't be possible if records are on the blockchain.
They are. The government actually has the records today.
They do, but they are traditionally stored in a database, right? So if you're a good enough hacker, you can
get access.
I'm saying this because I'm watching. This is from TV, but you know, I can see it happening. I'm watching this series called Mr. Robot. Right, highly recommended, Mr. Robot. So there's this hacker in the hospital who takes drugs. He got in the hospital because somebody pushed him off a cliff, but it's a different story. So he ends up in the hospital. His psychologist comes in and says, "You look like you're addicted." Like, I'm not addicted to heroin. So prove it. You need to you need to test yourself once a month to show me that you're clean. And he thinks, sure, no problem, I can do that. I choose this particular hospital because the head of IT is a total and doesn't know what he's doing, and he's using Windows 95, and I can totally hack into the database and just change my records from negative to positive, from positive to negative for opioids. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a traditional system that can be hacked and that there's no trace behind it. But with the blockchain is tamper-proof, so you won't be able to do that.
Nope, you wouldn't. Yeah, and well, the information you get would, not necessarily actually mean anything.
Yeah, because of the anonymity issue as well, right?
Well, it could be all scrambled depending on what they've hacked and what they get access to.
Yeah, and encrypted. Okay, so totally change the legal profession, will change the medical profession, the education industry will change.
So I was just thinking about the results side of things. Yeah. You're not actually storing the data in the blockchain, so the data is in a traditional database. Therefore, it can get good.
You can. Like, data can be stored on the blockchain. It just gets big.
Gets really big.
Yeah. So that's what Mark was talking about earlier, about technology has to change as well to follow suit.
You don't really need the results. You just need to know that they have the certificate. But it's an image, because you can store an image, fingerprint.
I guess the validation is in the blockchain, not the actual record.
So that's the how, right? So the engineers will decide how to do this efficiently, but the technology of the blockchain provides this capability. Mark, we've got another few minutes. What else big is going to change the world because of the blockchain?
Security token offerings. That's the hot topic at the moment.
Oh, what's that? That sounds complicated.
So I'm working on a project at the moment, which is a major property development project, which is releasing a security token to fund the development, where the benefit from that development goes back to the token.
So the money from the sale of or the development of the property is what's backing the token.
Well, it's the reward for the investment.
Okay.
There can be different ways of structuring it, but say the tokens that are used to purchase or fund the development own all of the development as well. So 100% of the benefit goes back to it similar to a share, but instead of it being a share, it's a smart contract token.
Right. So now you are combining smart contracts with currency, cryptocurrency, to fund a new development.
That's what traditional ICOs were doing in terms of tech development, but now it's going into real estate.
Right. Do you have a specific example of something that is actually using this approach today? Maybe you can use it to help us understand.
Have you guys read the articles on Great Keppel Island?
I did read the one that you sent me.
No, I have not.
It was very impressive.
That's actually the project I'm working on.
Tell us about it, Mark.
So a purchase has been made, a deposit has been given, and a contract has been formed for the purchase of Great Keppel Island. And
where is this island?
In the Great Barrier Reef.
Barrier Reef.
All right. Okay.
Off the coast of Yeppoon. And so there's all the development plans and approvals that have been made. It's quite a big project that's backed by the government, Queensland tourism, Queensland government, they're the savior of Queensland tourism. And so what is happening is a security token offering is being used to crowdfund the development of this island.
Mm-hmm. So let me rephrase that. I'm looking at this story now on Sydney Morning Herald. It's a $300 million development, and it's not funded by dollars, right? It's funded by a currency that is specifically minted, created for this purpose. Is that correct?
It's funded by dollars,
right?
But those dollars, which are used to pay for the development, is a smart contract or a security token is given to represent the investment that's been made.
Okay, let me rephrase then. I'm just doing this to make sure that I understand, because it is a strange concept to me as well. So I take $1 and I purchase, 100 coins, Great Keppel Island, or let's call them GKI coins, that represent an arbitrary value that eventually will be determined by the economic activity on the island, and it will have a ratio against the Australian dollar and other currencies, right? But I hold GKIs now, not a share certificate. Like I don't have 100 shares of the island's economy, but I've got these coins that change in value.
Yep. And you can trade your coins for real Aussie dollars.
Yeah. Well, as the economy actually starts to flourish, you'd be receiving currency or distributions based on the profits of the island, and you can convert that into cash and hold on to your tokens, or you can trade your tokens to make a profit. It depends on, I guess, what you want. There's people that like to buy and invest into these things to trade for quick gains, and there's people that like to hold on to them because they see the value over many years.
So can I go, like let's say I have GKI tokens, as they're called, can I go to Great Keppel Island and use them to buy accommodation or dinner at a restaurant instead of dollars?
So the GKI tokens is something that you'd be holding on to. There'll be a utility token which you'll be able to use on the island.
Oh, right. But it has a particular exchange value with the actual tokens or with other currencies?
Yes. So the security tokens are something that you want to hold on to and allow it to build value, because you receive distributions, because over time as the project completes or as it gets underway and completes, market confidence is built. When market confidence is built, demand rises, and so does the value. And you can trade on that value, or you can hold on it based on knowing that you're going to be receiving a return.
Right. I think it's like there is a one-to-one analogy with what is happening in the stock market, where if you want to do a development, you buy shares. It's just that, as I understand it, using crypto and smart contracts significantly lowers the costs or the cost of an investment like that. Like it's a large investment, it's got large costs. Like you don't need that many lawyers. Just that alone will drop the cost significantly. So it's not really totally new concept. It's just a better way to do something that we already do a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like just creating the wheel and inventing it. It's seeing a wheel that's being a bit clunky and working out how to streamline it.
Awesome.
And also use it to design a model which is more efficient, both in getting a project going, because there's still obstacles, but it's not the same level. But the reward of or the benefit of owning it is to a typical shareholding.
That's great. Well, I think we did go through quite a few examples of how our society is going to change significantly over the next 10 years using this new tech. And I think that brings us into rapid fire question time. Mm-hmm. And we're going to ask you a few questions, Mark, that require very relatively quick answers. practical things that I'm very curious about.
We ask the questions quickly. You can spend as long as you want answering them.
Keep it short.
Yeah. So what cryptocurrencies do you own?
Ethereum is probably, the one that I thought was a lot more promising, and then it kind of like collapsed and lost a little bit out of, too much.
Keep the faith.
So outside of GKIs, which cryptocurrencies would you recommend?
I'm not a trader. I think if you want to buy and sell cryptocurrencies, you need to do your research. You need to keep your head on it, and you need to watch the market, because a lot of people come in on the hype, they buy it at a really high price, and then it drops. I bought, at 400, it went down to 200, but at the beginning of the year it was 1,300. So
yeah, of course, it's very speculative. So don't trade. Basically, one of the things we ask is any takeaways, like recommendations,
like any asset.
Yeah,
I would say, or like any asset, it involves risk. And we're not recommending that people go and trade cryptocurrencies.
You can mine them, which is good fun. I recommend it, but don't just buy for investment purposes.
If you want to trade, you can make good money, but you need to really do your study, to know what you're getting into, and not buy into hype.
No problem. Since we are an education podcast, what I'd like to know about Mark is, it is all new, right? It's all new even to me, and I'm a geek. Do you have any book recommendations that can help me understand cryptocurrencies, the blockchain, and actually what I'm very interested to learn about are smart contracts and how to program smart contracts? Any recommendations?
I'll need to get back to you on that one.
No problem. Just get back to us and we'll put it in the show notes.
So Ethereum has information on its website on how to build applications on the platform. So your book.
There's got to be a book out there that, is a dummy's guide to cryptocurrency, something like that.
There are books out there. I haven't read any of them, to be honest.
Okay, another one, Mark. Another quick question. I don't know how quick, but what I want to know is, let's say that you're a teacher, right? And the kids that you're teaching today will have to live in this world of cryptocurrencies and blockchains and all that. By the time they're ready to get a job, in my opinion, how do you recommend that the teacher prepares to at least introduce this concept to the students?
That's really interesting. I think you could have something that represents a token, like a chip of some sort, and you can explain, I guess, different forces in the real world by having a total supply and then having it spread and reenacting maybe different scenarios that can happen in the real world. I'm thinking of something physical that represents the digital.
Yeah.
Something where people can see is the easiest way of doing that.
I think that's actually a good analogy. It's got to be a physical thing because kids understand physical, like it could be Lego bricks, right? And you could simulate the fixed supply of the currency.
Was it Mark Nolan? Am I confusing teachers who runs the cryptocurrency?
No, that's Kieran Nolan.
Kieran Nolan.
Yeah,
too many Nolans
ago in a podcast.
Yes,
he's taken it a bit further because he's got older kids, right?
Yeah, and he's got them voting on the blockchain.
Yeah, they've got their own currency.
Yeah,
but I think Mark was thinking about much younger kids.
Well, yeah, it all starts with the basics.
Yeah.
It all starts even everyone having a token and being able to place their tokens with different things that they want to support. Maybe something in the classroom, in that burger shop where when you buy a burger, they give you a bottle cap and you put it in a jar that represents a different charity. You could have a scenario where these tokens represent a donation to something,
right?
And so it could be just I don't know how exactly it could be done, but there could be where do you want to give your energy?
Yeah. What about the
Where do
blockchain?
you want to place it behind?
Like the ledger, can we use some kind of notepad to record class activities in order to simulate the blockchain and how it's always available in public, and every transaction gets validated through it? Is it something that you think we can do with just pen and paper?
You've got me thinking. I'm going to be thinking about this.
Think about it, and we can do a supplemental recording once you have an answer. Because I think, just using those traditional tools, pen, paper, and all that, it's a good tool for the classroom. You
could have like an image that's broken up into pieces, where like when it's all together, it's a unified blockchain. But when you only have a piece, you don't really know what's on it. It doesn't mean anything unless it comes together.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of like show how, when like, I guess the security of the blockchain, of how all the pieces need to be together so that you can actually see what the information is, or it becomes kind of like a scrambled block.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the way I relate it and talk about it most is by explaining, I guess it's a bit of a iffy topic, but BitTorrents, and explaining like when you're downloading a file, you're downloading these packets of information from thousands of people.
Yeah.
But those packets of information mean absolutely nothing unless they all come together perfectly.
Yeah. So that's integrity.
That's a good idea. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mark. If our listeners want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Or send you Bitcoin.
Send you Bitcoin.
My wallet is 3, 4 something.
We'll put it in the show notes.
LinkedIn is probably best. My profile username at Talent is Mark Roper. I'm trying to open up to see if I have a dash in between. But yeah, LinkedIn, I'm very contactable.
What's your medium of choice for communications? Is it LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Are you there? Oh, he's gone.
Okay. Well, thanks guys for listening to the Bitcoin show.
I think the big government is shutting us down because we just lost Mark. Anyway, it was great talking to you, Marcus. I'll connect to Mark and thank him as well in a moment once we are back. So, until next time. See you then.
Cheers. Thanks, mate. Bye. That was funny.
That's all for this episode. The notes for this episode that include links to many of the resources mentioned and information on how to get in touch with Mark are available on our website, techexplorations.com/p/Stemiverse. Each episode comes with its own page on the Tech Explorations website and a goldmine of information in the notes. This Stemiverse podcast episode was produced by Tech Explorations. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Would you like to nominate a friend or colleague to be our guest? Please email us at pa@texplore.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes by searching for the name of our podcast, Stemiverse. That's Stemiverse. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.